Hi everyone, welcome to the podcast called Recruitment in View. Today's episode, I'm joined with Lauren Sharp, Head of Hiring Wizard, and we're going to talk about the 2026, I suppose, conditions where we are today. With it, it's quite an interesting time at the moment in 2026. Talent attraction is what we're going to talk about. And talent attraction does have some nuances market to market and also where the condition is. So I wanted to kind of have a podcast where we could talk about what does it feel like for some markets rather than others. One I know very well is construction, struggling massively at the minute, for example, but some markets, even in construction, where they're probably still and always will be short of skills. So a very interesting topic to talk about today. So thanks for coming on the podcast, Lauren.
Great to be
first,
here.
Natural question, a bit of an intro from yourself. So tell us about Hiring Wizard. That would be a great starting point.
Yeah, so Hiring Wizard is a recruitment advertising business. So we specialise in getting our clients roles across the major job boards and niche job boards to make sure that they get the best visibility that they can. So it's a cost-effective solution for a lot of our clients to market their roles and find the right skills for them.
Great. Lovely synopsis. So let's dive straight into this podcast, right? Market conditions. Now, the natural first question is, what is it like in the current climate, particularly from a talent attraction perspective, because some markets will do better than others. What trends are you sort of seeing from the data that you're looking at the moment?
I mean, in the first quarter, we've seen an increase in job postings. It's very specific to set sectors, I think. It's always a vague one, isn't it?
Yeah.
It can be a tricky one to identify. Obviously, with the rise in AI and all of that things, we're seeing a lot of tech increasing, a lot of roles for various companies across all sectors really hiring in tech, and engineering has seen quite a big increase as well, which is interesting. Yeah, cyber is a really big one as well. That's seen a 39%
There's a lot of phishing
increase.
going on at the minute, so I understand that. To be fair, I've had a couple of people saying, "Did you send me a message?" I was like, "Did you look at the email address?" Clearly not. That was a true story.
Some are getting tactful with it, though. It can be difficult to tell now.
Yeah.
So that's a massive one. A lot of companies are looking to have better infrastructure. I think as well with a lot of the cyber attacks that have happened, it's got a lot of companies panicking and making sure that they're putting the right things in place. So that has seen a massive increase across recruitment and across all sectors really, to make sure that they're all really good and safe, I guess.
It's a funny comment. So I'm related to all of this, but I was at an event for a payroll company just yesterday in London, and we were chatting about how everyone's getting to the lab. So to give you an idea of the recording, we're in in March before the April launch of the finance bill, and everyone talks about how everything in the world is like panic because when something comes knocking on your door, like a cyber attack, or HMRC are going to come knocking because they want to know if people are paying tax, probably with umbrella companies, or there's a HR problem. They normally ask for someone from HR advice at that point. It's never like proactive. It's always like something's going to happen that, well, I've got a problem, so let's deal with it. So anyway, I digress already, and that's quite scary. We just died. So the one thing I wanted to ask you with the current climate, and it was interesting to talk about tech. So I know a bit around tech, particularly contingent labor in tech has also moved into SOW. There's always been this perm temp. I mean, engineers was another thing that you said was in short supply. Are you seeing any trends around that? Because the gig economy has been increasing. Is there any change in the current climate around whether the gig economy or perm sort of spiked at all? Do you know?
It's different depending on a candidate perspective to a company's perspective.
Interesting. Okay, cool.
So from a candidate perspective, a lot more people want permanent roles.
Okay.
Seeing 87% now of candidates actually want a permanent role rather than a temporary or contract role. However, a quarter of companies are now looking to increase their temporary workforce. I think a lot of the conversations we've had with clients, it's around skills gaps and just needing people in really quickly rather than it being what they want for the future necessarily. It's just kind of where they're growing quickly in areas. They just need to plug that gap.
It's funny you say that. I wonder if the increase to 87% in perm could be the nature of the using job boards openly, probably more perm driven anyway, openly,
Yeah.
because the gig economy is definitely a rising increase. But I would also say, is that a nature of the lack of confidence in the market right now? Let's be transparent. There are particularly some engineering would be an interesting one. If we could dig into the data one day, and maybe in a different episode, maybe for Q2 or something, we could do it. But I wonder if those sectors are actually candidates are just driven by security, because there
Yeah.
isn't any at the minute.
I was shocked when I read the statistic, especially because conversations I've had previously going on years is that contract work is typically higher paid, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah,
And a lot of people, especially in like engineering or construction, they'll opt for something that's more contract because they can hop between the different contracts. Maybe it's a year long, and it is generally a higher pay for them. So yeah, it is interesting. I do wonder whether it is the instability and
yeah.
maybe the economy and
I,
everything
I
now
would
that
say
is
it
making
is.
it that way.
I would say it
Yeah,
is, and probably just I think because the lack of jobs and again we have to slice and dice this a little bit. That there's probably an element of because some industries are so lacking in confidence, like construction, people would consider a permanent role or more PAYE driven. Because the other thing you got to bear in mind, a lot of these sectors like engineering, tech, construction, of any trade, a lot of these people would rather be, how can I put it, the gig economy because it's tax efficient to be. That's why they earn more money. It's not actually the rate could be any difference. It's just they're paying less tax by default, like
yeah,
CIS schemes. I get my acronym wrong there. But okay, interesting. So, in terms of the advertising on the platform, right? I suppose an open question or an open statement that goes with this question is I'm yet to see, apart from a few job ads ever really been done well. Talent attraction is quite a broad subject, and we're obviously going to focus on advertising for today because we'll be here for a 4-hour podcast. But in terms of talent attraction, what is the best way to sell to people? Because, I think information is key. The one thing that you see in the I would call it the sloppiest way of recruiting based on speed is what people go for,
yeah,
spray and pray, right? Kind of approach, which is, do you have this? Do you have this? We're interested in, I saw this on LinkedIn yesterday, 0.1% of a recruitment business. We're only interested in these top billers. And someone put in the comments, and what are you offering them? Question mark. It was like, well, yeah. Why do you demand the 0.1% of the best of something with nothing else to offer? Are you the 0.1% of the industry? It's a
yeah,
real weird one when you kind of think of how to sell to people. So what's your
yeah,
recommendations on talent
definitely. I
attraction?
think with recruitment agencies, you're doing a lot of calling, and you can really pitch the role. What a lot of companies are not doing is pitching it before you're getting that interest, engaging it. So where you would be writing a pitch, or even at an interview stage, where you're highlighting why it's a great company to work for, all the benefits that you have. A lot of companies are saving that for interview, and you're not getting the candidates through to tell them how great the company is because you're not quite highlighting that on adverts. I know AI is very topical at the moment, so
Yeah,
not to go too much back
yeah,
to
yeah.
it, but what you're seeing now on the job boards a lot of is AI generated adverts, which is great. It does save time. However, if you're not inputting what's great about the company, your value proposition as an employer, what benefits you have, that AI is creating a very generic advert based on the job title that's been provided, which means you have a little synopsis about the company, the key requirements for the role, and maybe some responsibilities thrown in there too. Maybe the salary, if the company will highlight it too. And that's great, but it's very much a you need to do this, 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 and this. And it comes across quite demanding almost then,
Yeah.
rather than it actually being about a great company. We have it a lot where on our onboarding meetings, we'll say, well, why do you like working at the company as the HR team? Just to find out, not so you can put about your holidays, pension scheme, and all of the normal tangible benefits. But what else? What's special about the company? we find that a lot of our clients have been there for 15 years. Well, what's made you stay? And it's really interesting to see. So it'll be something as simple as a coffee morning on a Friday where everyone comes out for an hour. We have one company who does Mario Kart every Friday afternoon for an hour,
Right.
just like a bit of fun,
Yeah.
just some fun things that can also express the culture of the company and how they are. And getting that across in the advert is key. So it's things like adding the benefits, not just the basic ones or the legal requirements.
Yeah.
And because sometimes that can do the opposite. If you are only popping on those legal requirements, it can make a candidate think, oh, well, you have to offer that.
And people don't, I suppose, in advertising, think about what drives people. What's the motivation, right? And we can say like money's the motivation for a sales role, or security might be the driver for someone who works in compliance, and they want to feel like they're in a secure a role where they don't feel like they're at risk massively if they're doing that kind of role. So you can play to people's drivers, but I think a lot of job ads I've ever seen, I'd say 90+% of them tend to tick the typical box, which is, we've got 1 day slightly better holiday than the bare minimum, and that's a benefit. And it's like, really? Because if it's just 1 day a year, but it's the best job you're going to have, to be honest, does it matter whether you're getting statutory holiday or not? To be fair, because 1 day doesn't make any real difference to somebody. In reality, that is the challenge with it.
It's more flexible working and things like that are more important to candidates now, knowing that they can work from home a couple of days a week, or they have the flexibility to start a bit later if they need to. And things like that are really important to people, especially now with the work-life balance that being so important to so many candidates, knowing that, for example, if you need to take your kids to school 1 day because you haven't got the cover, that your employer is going to be okay with that. Things like that are hard to get across on an advert. I understand that.
Yeah.
But you can get it across in numerous ways by just the way that you're writing it, showing the culture a bit more, that you're a friendly organisation. And if you're much more of a corporate organisation, you might write your advert in quite a corporate way. You're trying to attract people that are very regimented, for example. Whereas if you're more of a company that is got more of a creative mindset, and you're targeting people who are trying to, that have that same creative mindset, you need to be writing the advert in that creative way. Otherwise, you're attracting the wrong skill sets really through the advert. And also imagery and things like that across the adverts. A lot of the job boards now allow you to put imagery on there, so showcasing, if you've had a fun event, for example, Christmas party is one we always typically have put on there for a lot of companies, or a summer barbecue, where you're just showing the team, and it gives candidates an insight into what it would be like. So when they're reading this advert, they can imagine themselves in that role a little bit more, and it encourages them to apply.
Absolutely. So you've talked about there, I suppose, what is good to put in. It is a weird phrase as I say this. Before I say it, is what are the turn-offs? Sorry to use that phrase. In terms of advertising, for me, it's normally how short the advert is the first thing that I think means that there's very little effort going into it.
I think it depends on the company and the industry as to what the turn-off might be. So when we say really short, that actually does do quite well in certain like logistics types roles. People get put off by a longer advert. Actually, they just want to get to the apply button because they know the role, they know the type of company it would be, they want to check what the benefits are and done. They don't want to read the requirements, which are the same constantly. Whereas the opposite is a lot of tech roles, for example. They like quite a large description, know exactly what they're going to be doing typically. And we'll have more of like a 700-word description rather than the typical 350 words. And that sees a more positive reply rate.
Okay.
And it's looking at mobile versus desktop as well. A lot of tech people, statistically, they apply on desktops rather than mobile, whereas a lot of more logistics companies are applying on mobile. So when it's like 3 lines of text on a mobile is one on your laptop. So if you're applying on your mobile to a 700-word advert, you're just like constantly scrolling to get to that apply button. I think I would click off if it was 1,000 words. I'd give up looking for the apply button at that point.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an interesting one,
So
but it does depend.
one question, I don't know if you've seen this much on your platform and your world, but obviously there's always been this kind of push for video, maybe video applications, video advertising, that kind of stuff. Have you seen much around videos on the adverts that and the advertising that you're involved in?
Yeah, I think a lot of graduate roles are using it. High volume roles really do like a video interview, just to speed up the process, I guess, and get to people. I think there's an argument to say it gives people a better advantage because they can get themselves across over a video interview rather than just looking at a CV. Because especially in a graduate role, a lot of the CVs will look the same.
Yeah.
You've got your education on there, you've been to university, you might have done a placement or something, but a lot of them are very the same. So you're just picking, you're just randomly picking for a lot of them. And our roles, some of our graduate roles get over 1,000 applications.
Yeah, I can easily imagine.
In a weekend.
Yeah.
They're typically not live for very long because it's so competitive. So there is an argument to say those types of roles are really good for video interviewing because you can showcase the potential that you've got a bit more than on a CV, because you've got your personal statement at the top, but how much can you really write in that to really showcase you as a person?
Absolutely.
But then on the other scale, more senior hires, people don't like it. People hate having to do it and jump through the hoops. They want to speak to a person. So I think it is that whole, it's great for entry level roles, for more senior level roles. It can put a candidate off. We found it can really put people off doing it.
It's one of those things, right? It's I think there's an element of generational stuff that comes with video, right? Actually, I was chatting to a different friend of mine about video. So he does a lot around helping recruitment agencies with doing, it can be a podcast or it could be a video session. It could be a professional video for their website or various other things that they do. And I was saying to him, how are you finding your business now? Because the world has changed to either very, very corporate, very polished video type stuff, or very like, how can I put it? Professionally, very grungy, naturally done. This is the podcast that I've got, right? I'm not necessarily going for the polished article. I mean, this face, it never would be polished, to be frank. I'm allowed to say that about myself, jokingly. But the point I'm trying to make is that the one thing he did say was some of the people, the biggest thing that he found, he spent his entire career, and he's automated this now, bless him, in a platform, but was auto cue because so many people are fearful to get in front of a camera. So it's definitely a generational that you go to, a young SaaS business. I worked in a SaaS company, head of HR for a SaaS company, just coming out of the pandemic. And we did a lot around video. They were very pro video, if that makes sense. Very young, dynamic business. And they're all happy to get in front of a camera. I've never had a problem with a camera. But you go to somebody who's about 45 plus, the idea of going to in front of a camera is like the scariest thing in the world. So it definitely divides an audience, video content or video advertising and promotion and stuff. I've never seen a video advert done very well yet, to be honest. And I've had a go myself some years ago. Even at that company, I was promoting it from a phone, but it never quite works. It never quite. I think everyone would rather read something and then follow it up with a video to kind of seal that as what they've said really makes sense. My own interpretation, but I don't know.
I think it's when people are looking as well. If you're thinking about the candidates, they're looking maybe on their commute to and from work, maybe on their lunch break. Yeah. If you start playing in the middle of the break room a video advert, scrolling across, it's going to be a big tell to your employer that you're looking for a new job. So it's not going to come across the same way as if they were playing it very loudly, is it? It's just not. So it restricts people as well when you do something like that. And not everybody is scrolling, I guess. So it's reducing the talent pool. And is there an argument to say that there could be biases that then are introduced with that?
Maybe.
Yeah.
So one natural question off that. So the way people apply, they're probably doing it amongst their employer. Let's put it that way. They're begruntled employer, or they're begruntled about their employer, either or. They're thinking about a new job. how about the process of, AI and automation, not new, been around for a couple of decades, around rejecting applications, that candidate experience, right? Have you seen any changes recently in that? And has AI got involved in that as of yet that you know of?
Yeah, I think a lot of companies are trying to use AI more to speed up processes. Everyone wants it to make the job a little bit easier and a little bit quicker. Yeah, obviously you have to be careful with it because you can't just put it in Chat GPT on the public server, all these candidate CVs. It would be a massive GDPR
Yeah,
breach.
absolutely.
It can't be done. But a lot of ATSs now are building in AI scoring. We have
Okay.
it in our applicant
Okay,
tracking
nice.
system as well. So it will look at the job advert and it will give the candidate a rating out of 5 based on it and a summary to go with it. So we've found that it's helped take out any bias from a hiring manager because you can be a bit more, HR can question a bit more. So why aren't you interviewing this 5-star candidate? Well, you should be, as it were. And it can really help build the shortlist out and make it quicker to do. So it is good, but it has to be done properly, and you have to be using the right types of AI. You cannot just cause a massive GDPR breach with it and be dropping candidates' details into any server, because obviously that would be a major issue.
Well, it's not limited to recruitment, dare I say. So I did a podcast episode with Ian Tomlin, who runs an AI business, focuses on AI agents, and that's all obviously closed AI, not open AI. But the one thing I've talked probably on that episode, but just maybe covered it in a couple of other episodes, maybe, but is around, there's a lot of data breaches around lots of uses in business of different AI. So what will happen is you'll have, let's say you're in Microsoft, you'll use the AI that's part of that platform that you use within your environment. You'll then go to ChatGPT, you'll then got Claude, and then you've got something else. There's various ones nowadays, right? Some of them could be, non-closed that are just open in the world, right? And if you're not
Yeah,
paying for a subscription and you're using free, because people use free, like you can use Canva for free, for example. If you're using the
yeah.
free, I'm not accusing Canva, by the way, as a disclaimer, but how do you know if you're using something in Canva which is free, right? That's got
Yeah.
any intellectual stuff in there, that's technically you're giving away information to the world. So that was just an example. It might not be Canva. I don't want to get sued by Canva. They're not a bad company. But yeah, as an example, it's just quite amazing that AI could be anywhere and everywhere, and we freely use
Yeah.
these things without a second thought, which is quite dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even about company policy. People use it in their own personal lives.
Yeah,
I mean, I made a meal plan, for example, using ChatGPT the other day, using the things that I had in my fridge. People just use it in their lives, and then they think, "Hang on a minute, I could probably use this in work." But if you're not in HR or policy or GDPR,
yeah,
if you've not got your hand in that pot, you're not going to have any idea that you're actually breaking it, are you?
yeah.
It's it's
That's the
it's
reality.
a lot of employees. It's one that probably needs a lot more training on as for companies because they don't know that that's bad, because how would they know? Because they're not clued up on those policies because it's quite a new thing to be doing.
I'm going to ask a cheeky question, and I don't know how much you can answer this, but I think this would be, if I get a lot of listeners in hopefully in the recruitment industry and related sectors, right? Talent acquisition, they might be thinking, what are the job boards that are particularly good performers? There's obviously big names out there like Indeed or Total Jobs, etc., etc., right? That are well known, been around for a long time. It doesn't mean that actually their performance is always good. Is there any standout performers in advertising that do pretty well in the current climate, or is it still very depend on sector? There's always going to be some that are
it's
slightly better than others. Is there anything that sort of stood out
it
that's worth sharing?
it can depend on department, sector, location, even. So, what we always recommend with our clients at the beginning is to kind of go across as many of the major ones as possible. So, that CV Library, Total Jobs, Indeed, Read, those ones. And then what we can do is we can analyze which roles are working for the company. in which departments and provide a more strategic view on it. What we find is there are a couple of job boards that you get volume from. So Indeed and Total Jobs, generally you're getting the volume from. But when we analyse where we're getting the quality from, i.e. who's going to interview, it's actually pretty even. So we have a pretty even split across the board in most sectors, that would be. So we always find it very interesting because being able to track that is so important, because you might get 150 applications and 75% of them have come from one of the job boards, for example. But that doesn't mean that you've just got all the quality from that board. And that's a conversation we constantly have with our clients, because you see the number and you think, well, that's the one we need to be using. And you think, hang on a minute, but let's look at your hires over the last year. Actually, it's only been made up by 10% of them. And that's an actual client statistics there. And it was shocking for even us to find out that, so many of the applications came from one board. I won't name them. So don't want them to, don't want it to be a Canvagate.
Bless you.
But but it is an interesting one to look at, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how many applications you're getting. It's the quality that matters, and that's what we focus on. It has to be. You want the interviews, and you want the hires, and you want them to be retained as well. And that's the key thing. So that's kind of why all of them are good, I guess.
And the reason why I say that is one trend, just to throw out there, is because I don't know if recruitment agencies talk to each other, but one thing I have found over the years is people tend to go for a job board and they commit their soul to one job board, and it's normally a job board that gives them volume. And I find that interesting. They don't spread the net wide because they think it's going to be very expensive to do so. I'm not pitching for you, but essentially that's not always true. But I understand why often, because they want to do CV searching or whatever, so they'll sign up to one of the major job boards that gives them that as well. But it is one of those where looking at
sometimes the small upfront cost though of going on a couple more boards is worth it when you think about how much time the recruiters are having to spend on trying to find the candidates elsewhere, because they've only got the one board. So we have a few recruitment agencies as clients going across all of the job boards. We obviously get the preferential rates compared to what they could get themselves, but we find that they've commented before that their admin time almost and their proactive time is reducing, because they can set up like watchdogs on across the job boards on the CV databases, and they can have an advert out, which we've helped highlight benefits of, because it's obviously always difficult to highlight benefits on an unbranded advert. But there are ways to do it to attract candidates for them, and we will work with them and help them on that, and they find that the candidates that they're putting forward, again, they have a big spread across the major job boards. It's not just one, and have found a big increase in fill rates of a pace by being able to do it, because the work's already done for them, as it were, from that ATS perspective, and having them coming in constantly and building up that talent pipeline.
So a natural question I've got for you. We've already done half an hour on this podcast. I didn't realize how much we can talk about advertising, and it just goes to show, right? I don't think we'll ever get to a point where there's lots of great ads out there in the world. I'll be honest. I think recruitment will always be an element of the what's the word? The elephant in the room of recruiters not, and I don't limit this to agency recruiters. I say internal, HR, the lot. I think we're all victims of rushing to get something out and not had an opinion on that before it goes out, and it be probably a wasted opportunity, if I word it like that. But I think we all fall victim to that openly. But what I will ask is, considering the volatile market, I've definitely reflected this on a number of episodes around, we went from a fairly reasonable economy of confidence to a pandemic, to a Brexit, to a pandemic, to the Great Resignation that lasted 12 months, maybe 18, depending on your opinion. That was a falsified economy, if I'm brutally honest with you, to the sort of dull moment we live in now, which is like this Labour government lack of confidence era that we've created. I didn't vote for him, to be very clear. No, I won't bring politics to the episode, but
I know, you've got to be careful with that.
yeah, but just to be
You
clear,
might have got people click off now. Great.
maybe,
Well done.
but to be fair, like, where do we go from here? What? It's hard to say. Is there a crystal ball? But if you were to say there's a crystal ball over the next few years, what does it look like? And I suppose, what can people do to be ahead of the competition in this space?
It's a hard one. It's hard to predict because you make a prediction every quarter, I'd say, and it changes. I think is usually what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you can see where's growing, and we've always known that those are the areas that are going to be growing, the ones that either they need the people, they can't be replaced by softwares or AI or anything. You just need the people, and the ones to help build the softwares. They're the two growing ones that continue to grow, don't they? They just constantly are growing. I think sectors chop and change. There's always an increase somewhere. There's always growing. We saw a decline in job adverts towards the end of last year, and it's picked right back up again this year. But it is just so different depending on the sector. I don't even know where it's going, to be honest.
It is one of those where I think there's a general consensus of lack of confidence. But actually, if I was to give you a lens from a construction perspective, I think and I talk to a lot of people in construction, whether could be a subby, could be a recruitment agency, etc. Right? And in construction alone, which includes engineering, infrastructure, etc., I think there are pockets of hope in certain sectors, like, if you look at anything related to energy or data centers or those kind of anything that's going to be part of a Cold War with China effectively over AI, essentially, right? So tech's probably involved in this to an extent also, right? That kind of area is probably going to boom over the coming years, right? I think the reality is they just need someone to give them a little kick to get that going, and we haven't quite seen it yet. But hopefully this year, I think, feels like it might be waiting for a kick of some description. But a lot of legislation changes are quite painful for businesses, so that creates the uncertainty. So, when we get April out the way and then we move into, we've settled with the new norm of what that means, it will then kick in again in probably early 2027 when the rest of the Employment Rights Bill kicks in, and then boom, will naturally go from there. So we are probably a year away from any kind of boom, if I was to be optimistic, is probably the right way of saying. But this legislation hasn't helped, but those sectors will do certainly very well. I think everybody else is probably biding their time. It is my crystal ball, if you like.
I think everyone's watching everybody else to see what's happening before they make
everyone's
that
hoping
move.
somebody else makes a move. Exactly that.
See if it works out for them, and if it does, I'll do it too, sort of thing. So it's just so sporadic at the moment. I think that's how I would describe the market for recruitment: sporadic.
I feel for recruitment, right? I'm an ex-recruiter, right? Having a recruitment business at this point in time would be very tough, right? And they're probably navigating market shifts, changes, things like that. I think the biggest thing you've got to do, like in any recruitment, and not telling a recruiter how to do his job, but build your talent pool and have those conversations now. Because when it goes boom, if you've not done the grunt work, which is getting the right people, then you've got nothing to sell. And I'd certainly say there's I'm not promoting advertising specifically for you, sorry, Lauren. But I would say in terms of talent pooling, like I would certainly say particularly in construction, this has already been felt, and we've had a nosedive in the construction industry of talent leaving. But you've had Brexit, we've had COVID, we've had a huge amount of decline in work. Loads of people have done something else, maybe gone, if they've come from abroad, gone home, talent shortages in skills. There is going to be anyone that can do a job is going to be sought after. And if you can't find them, train them. Train to deploy was a phrase someone said to me recently. And I was like, actually, that is spot on. That's where particularly construction, blue collar type industries are going to have to go. If you don't want to, because the government's just made international hiring very, very difficult. in
Yeah,
the
it's
UK.
definitely
So
don't look at the traditional markers like education and how many years experience you've got. Look at the skill set that the person might have. Even bringing something like a practical assessment into an interview to check that they've got the right skills,
yeah, yeah,
rather
very
than just
sensible.
checking that they've done it for 5 years, because they could have done it for 5 years but be really bad at it. They might have done
Yeah,
it for 6 months and be the best person that
yeah,
you could
yeah,
possibly get. So focusing on
absolutely.
skills is a way we've been recommending at the moment to help plug that skills gap to some of our clients, and it has
Yeah.
been working for them too. Been
One
shocked.
question before we all go, just on those skills, have you found an increase on soft skills? I know there was a massive demand there's a massive shortage in soft skills, particularly from a HR perspective. Probably about 3 years ago, before this all started tumbling down.
Yeah.
Essentially, is that still quite sort of in your advertising and stuff like that? Still quite sought after to assess soft skills?
It is very sought after. I think especially entry level roles at the moment, there's still that impact of COVID on a lot of people's soft skills, communication and things like that.
Yeah,
We have seen that a lot of more entry level roles, candidates are struggling with that. Um, there's a lot more training out there, even like universities and stuff, to try and help people for that. But yeah, it is very sought after, um, but it's a hard one to get for entry
yeah,
level roles at the moment. Everyone was isolated for so many years, and then after that, people really did struggle, especially because. I mean, if we think about now, it's 2026 when this happened. These people who are now joining the job market were in school or
yeah, yeah,
university.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, they were confined to their bedroom for years, not really communicating with anybody. So they didn't build up those skills that a lot of people do get when they're at university or when they're in sixth form and things like that. So it's trying to, get where people will get the skills, and perhaps workplaces helping them build soft skills. Well, we have a graduate program, and one of the main things that we do on it is helping um, our employees with their soft skills,
Okay, yeah.
and presentation skills and things like that they generally would have really learned at school or university, but it's just helping them with the things that they wouldn't have been able to do in a practical setting when they were at school,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
obviously it was over Teams.
yeah,
So
yeah, exactly. Well, I've got two boys. My eldest is about to turn 16, so he was 10 during the pandemic, and my other one would have been 7. So they were coming out of primary. My eldest was doing 11 plus, and I was glad he did his 11 plus because he had something to focus on at the right
yeah,
timing during COVID. It worked out very well for him, actually, because it meant just don't bother with homeschooling and just focus on exam practice. So he bored the hell out of himself doing exam practice and got into a grammar school. So it works out well for him. But my
yeah,
youngest massively lost out from it, and we're still seeing the repercussions of that, and we're working with him on it. But yeah, I mean, he's not in a bad place, but and he's quite social, so it wasn't those skills that he struggled with, but the ability for someone to be next to him, to see him writing, to see his spelling, to do all of that
yeah,
kind of stuff. That was quite critical at that age. It's really had a knock-on effect for him,
yeah.
sadly. So yeah, again, we could probably make 4 podcasts out of this content if we're not careful. So I think we should leave it there for today. I've really enjoyed the session. It's been really insightful and chatting, and I think you've given some great tips to the listeners. And maybe we'll do a follow-up soon and talk about how maybe the year's ending, or how Q3-4 looks like, and see if there's any change when things
Yeah,
hopefully at some point this year or next finally start picking up. So no, thank you for coming. I've really enjoyed the session, and
yeah.
we'll speak again
Thanks for
soon.
having
All
me.
right. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Bye.
Thanks.